Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily DVAR Halacha. And here's a brand new halacha for us for Wednesday, 6th day of September, 15th day of Elul. Here we go. A couple of more fun laws about shofar for you to know. And here they go. It is not appropriate to plate the inside or outside of the shofar with like gold or silver to make it extra pretty. And the reason, sure, it's nice if your shofar looks nice, but you see, you have to have the sound of a shofar. And if you put plating on the inside or the outside, you're not really having the sound of only the shofar, you're having the sound of the shofar plus silver. And that's not appropriate. You're supposed to just have the sound of a shofar. So please do make sure that you're not putting extra materials, even for niceness, on the inside or outside of the shofar. If somebody chooses to engrave a beautiful pasuk sentence or something of Torah words on the shofar, that's okay, because that's just the shofar itself making the sound. The engraved scratching is, even if it does change the sound a little bit, it's still the sound of the actual shofar, so that would be considered allowed. This is a halacha that I guess you're almost never going to need to know, but just fun to know. The shofar must be pressed against the lips, and the sound must come from the lips being pressed on the shofar. You're not allowed to hold the shofar out in midair and somehow get the sound to fly through the shofar that way. Okay, another one, this is a little more pertinent because you will sometimes see that a shofar gets some saliva inside and it's not blowing so clearly. And so a shofar blower might want to pour liquids into his shofar to help cleanse it out. That is considered appropriate. It has the look of washing, which is kind of allowed, rinsing, which is allowed, but it doesn't have the look of tikkun mana, like actually fixing the vessel. It's not a fix. It's just a cleansing, and a cleansing is considered okay. Now to the timing of the blowing of the shofar. Generally, all daytime mitzvahs are supposed to happen between sunrise and sunset. Sunrise is called Neitz Hachama, and sunset is called Shkias Hachama. So again, daytime mitzvahs are supposed to happen in the light, sometime between sunrise and sunset. But if somehow there was a reason that you had to do it extra early because of some horrible constraints on time, then you could go a drop earlier if desperate to the time of Alos HaShachar, which is dawn. You know, when the first light comes up over the horizon, which is 72 minutes before sunrise. You could blow the shofar as early as then if you somehow needed to for some unusual circumstance. You're supposed to end the shofar blowing before sundown, but again, if you were desperate and for some reason couldn't get it done then, this would happen perhaps if you're walking far to someone who's ill in a hospital and the timing got all bungled up. So if necessary, you could blow the shofar after sundown while it's still that in-between time that you might call dusk, and up until the time when the 3 stars come out, which we call nightfall. You could do it that late if you're desperate. And lastly, this year we're going to have Rosh Hashanah be on Thursday, Friday, and Shabbos. So after you finish using the shofar, it's going to be lying around your Yom Tov home, and then the next day is Shabbos. So you need to know about the muktzah status of a shofar on Shabbos. A shofar on Shabbos is muktzah, but its status of muktzah is called kli shemalachta le'isr, which means a vessel which is used for prohibited activities. The reason that that's important to note is because any muktzah that falls under the category of that, a vessel that's used for prohibited activities, is allowed to be moved under certain circumstances. Like if you need it to do something with it, like you're not going to do this, but like let's say you needed it to be a funnel to pour oil onto your salad or something. I know you're not going to want to do that. But so if you needed your shofar for that, you could move it for that. But here's something more pertinent. If you needed to move the shofar for its place, like the shofar was lying somewhere where someone left it when Shabbos was starting in a place where, oh no, we need that spot and the shofar's on that table. So a kli shemalachta le'isr, a vessel whose use is prohibited, whose work is for prohibited things, which here in this case is like blowing for musical sounds and stuff like that. Anything that falls under that category is allowed to be moved for the sake of its place also. So that means if the shofar was left on your dining room table and you needed to move it to serve lunch for Shabbos or the Friday night meal, you would be allowed to just move the shofar to a nearby place because kli shemalachta le'isr, shofar falls into that category, is allowed to be moved because you need its place. Thanks for logging on, and log on again tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.